Although Dubai is a place that a lot of people dream of visiting or even living there permanently, we have found some dark spots in that dream and we want to share those with you. We think that the phrase, "all that glitters is not gold," actually fits today's top 10 very much. Prepare to be shocked. Number 1. Censoring. There's generally the idea that the internet's a place where you can find anything. That's not exactly true in some places, and Dubai is included in this list. The government censors content that's contradictory to the ethics and morals of the UAE, which can both be a good thing because it's mainly targeted towards gambling, pornography, and illegal drugs, or a bad thing, like blocking news websites and blogs that don't agree with their views or websites that might support the LGBT community. In general, the idea that whoever doesn't agree with us is banned is a thing that shouldn't exist, but unfortunately, it does, and it is very intense. Number 2 is women's clothes. Although women who are not locals are not expected to wear abayas and niqabs, sometimes if a woman is not covered up enough, she might be mistaken for a prostitute or even be shouted at and harassed. The Code of Conduct says that both men and women should dress appropriately when they're in public places. But what the appropriately means is another story. A lot of women have been complaining about sexual harassment or verbal abuse, both by women and by men who think they are not dressed decently enough. Number 3 is drinking. You know how whenever you go for a vacation, you can just pop into a bar and have a drink? Well, that's not exactly the case in Dubai. Drinking is illegal for Muslims in the UAE and severely restricted for non-Muslims. That means if you want to buy alcohol and drink it, you have to have a license to do so. Although many of the establishments that require the license in order to sell alcohol don't check very often to see who has a permit or not to drink. If you think that you still want to get drunk and have fun, you might be up for 6 months of jail time or a fine. Number 4 is homosexuality. If you are homosexual, then maybe it's better to steer clear of Dubai as a permanent country for residents. You can actually be in prison for up to 10 years if you have consensual gay sex in Dubai. If somebody tells on you or you get caught, you can be thrown straight into jail. If you think we're overreacting, just remember the story of the 15-year-old boy who was raped and then accused by his doctor that he was gay. Do you remember what happened to him? He fled the country because he was afraid of going to jail. So no, if you have in mind you can get away with it, you cannot, and probably you shouldn't try. But also remember that if you see 2 men walking hand in hand in Dubai, they're not gay. Holding hands is a sign of friendship. Number 5 is PDA. If you think that being straight is safe, think again. Showing public affection to your significant other is actually not okay at all, according to the Code of Conduct. If you're married, you're allowed to hold hands. That's it. To be more precise, kissing and petting are considered an offense to public decency. So if you're one of those couples that can't keep their hands off each other, you might want to control it before you go to Dubai, because 2 people from Britain were actually jailed for kissing in public. Number 6 is rape. This one sounds like it's not true, but unfortunately it is. Many women who have reported their rapes to the authorities have actually been charged with the offense of having sex outside their marriage. A woman named Alicia Gale spent 8 months in jail after she was gang raped. We have no words to describe how wrong that is. Number 7 is domestic workers. Although exploiting immigrant workers is not something that only happens in Dubai, as sadly many of the things on this list are not Dubai exclusive, workers that are brought in from Asia and Africa with the promise of a better life are many times abused by their bosses, who refuse to either pay them or force them to work long hours without breaks, then deny medical treatment, etc. Some women have also accused their employers of rape, but because their employers hold their visas, many people, and especially women, are afraid to report them. Under the UAE labor laws, domestic migrant workers are not protected. Number 8 is construction workers. Even though the UAE is one of the 10 richest countries in the world, don't think it pays all too well to work there, especially if you're working in construction. The migrant workers that flee India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and China to find a better life there are faced with an unforgiving reality that forces them to work long hours and work conditions that are hazardous to the point of deadly. Many of them lived in cramped labor camps that don't provide a lot of food or any proper places for hygienic needs. Number 9. Behavior. Although you might think it would be better to live in a place where nobody swears or does rude hand gestures to you. Yep, we also thought of you drivers. You might want to think again how you would feel if you got into a small fight and said something to someone, and then the next thing you know, you're in jail. Dubai's code of conduct polices not only the way people dress, but their speech as well. So profanity and rude gestures are actually illegal. Number 10 is the environment. Unfortunately, Dubai is not exactly what you'd call environmentally friendly. It actually has the distinction of having the world's largest ecological footprint, something that we're sure they're not very proud of. Another thing is because it only rains once or twice a year. Remember, it's built in a desert. The groundwater is almost 8 times as saline as seawater. And of course, let's not forget that Dubai's major industry is oil, which means that there's always concerns about spillage, leakage, and illegal dumping of oil from offshore tankers. Well, there you have it, the 10 most disturbing things we found out about Dubai. Please keep in mind these 10 disturbing things. We can find another 10 things that are absolutely amazing. Which thing shocked you the most about Dubai? Tell us about it down in the comments.